600 gallons of water per minute. Now, what's the velocity per second of a 5-inch pipe? Well?
I lost my place. Nobody's perfect.
They called him the King of Cool. But to me, he was the King of Cruel. A man who used love as a prop and promises as weapons. At 81, Jacqueline Bisset no longer hesitates to speak about the man who once made her feel both enchanted and afraid. After decades of being labeled Steve McQueen's secret lover, she finally speaks out. If I hadn't stopped, I might have become one of the women he destroyed. From the breakfast McQueen prepared for her on the set of Bullet in 1968 to rumors of him being unfaithful, not necessarily with women, and nights filled with jealousy and reckless anger. She tells it all now, without disguise, without glorifying anything. For the first time in half a century, Jacqueline Bisset is no longer afraid of the spotlight, the very light that once belonged entirely to Steve McQueen. If I'd known that morning would change my life forever, I might never have stepped out of the car. The story begins on the set of Bullet's San Francisco spring of 1968. In March 1968, the Bullet crew started filming in San Francisco. Steve McQueen, the #1 star in Hollywood at the time, walked onto the set with the confidence of a man the whole world admired. But that day, when Jacqueline Bisset appeared, he suddenly lost his usual calm. She had just stepped out of the car, wearing a cream-colored coat and holding her script. McQueen stood a few meters away, silently watching. His gaze lasted so long that someone from the crew had to whisper Steve they're ready for the scene. He didn't answer, just squinted slightly, then smiled faintly, as if he'd found something that truly intrigued him. Bisset, only 23 then, was still a newcomer. She didn't know how to react under the gaze of a man everyone respected. Later, she recalled, I felt like he could see right through me, not as an actress, but as a woman he already knew he wanted. The next morning, on her script table, sat a cup of black coffee, a grilled cheese sandwich, and a small peony. Beside them was a note. Careful, it's as hot as your gaze this morning. No one said anything, but everyone knew who had sent it. McQueen. From that day on, he arrived on set earlier than usual. Before director Peter Yates showed up, McQueen would already be there, arms crossed, glancing around sometimes, just to make sure Bisset's little table was tidy and that her coffee was waiting. For a man known for his cold demeanor, such attentiveness shocked everyone. On the night of March 19th, 1968, the San Francisco Chronicle published photos of the two leaving Valentino's restaurant in North Beach together. Bisset sat beside him all evening, listening to his stories about growing up poor, about near-fatal racing accidents, and about the loneliness that fame couldn't fix. She laughed, sometimes fell silent for long moments just watching him. McQueen didn't need to say much. Occasionally, he'd glance at her, his eyes deep and calm. After dinner, he drove her to Twin Peaks. They stood by the fence, gazing at the city lights below. McQueen took off his jacket for her and whispered, "You're cold." She didn't answer, only nodded slightly. In that moment, he didn't seem like the king of cool the press adored, but rather a man searching for a place to rest his weary soul. Affection grew so quickly that even Bisset didn't realize it. They had breakfast together, rehearsed, lines laughed during breaks. McQueen cared for her quietly but fiercely. He adjusted the lighting so her face would look more beautiful on camera, asked the cameraman to pan slower when she entered the scene. Sometimes he just stood and watched from afar, his eyes filled with both pride and possession. But soon rumors began to spread. An assistant whispered that McQueen hadn't officially separated from his wife actress, Niley Adams. The tabloids started calling her name, asking Jacqueline Bisset the third person in the King of Cool's marriage. She didn't dare to ask him directly, but McQueen brought it up himself. "Don't worry, I'm finishing that chapter. Just trust me." And she did. A few days later, the crew captured a moment when McQueen watched Bisset after she completed a long scene. He clapped and smiled, something he rarely did. Yet behind the sweetness, jealousy had begun to rise. When he saw her talking too long with director Yates, he turned away silent for the rest of the day and then called her at midnight just to say, "Don't let anyone look at you the way I do." On April 5, 1968, Variety published a photo of McQueen leaving the Chateau Marmont Hotel with a blonde woman believed to be Candice Bergen. Bisset read the news in her trailer, her hands trembling so much she spilled her drink. She called him 3 times, but there was no answer. A chill ran down her spine. She tried to reassure herself. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it wasn't him. But that afternoon, McQueen showed up, his eyes tired. When she approached him, he only said softly, "Don't believe the papers." Then he turned away. That night, she stayed alone in her trailer. No tears, just a heavy silence. She realized she had trusted too quickly in a man who never truly belonged to anyone. She wrote a few lines on purple ink paper. "I'm no one's temporary choice anymore." The next morning, that paper lay neatly on McQueen's table. He read it, folded it, and slipped it into his jacket pocket. No one knew what he said afterward, only that from that day on, the black coffee and the peony were gone. On set, they still acted, still worked perfectly together. But between them now stood a quiet distance. Once during a break, Bisset caught him looking at her, no more desire, no more affection, just a faint shadow of regret. Years later, she said, "I thought I understood him. But I didn't. I only saw the part he wanted me to believe was real." The story seemed to end there. But a few months later, an unexpected secret made Bisset collapse completely. A secret about Steve McQueen that even today she still refuses to speak of. "I thought I'd been betrayed by another woman. But it turned out that person wasn't a woman." 3 weeks after leaving San Francisco, Bisset tried to forget McQueen. She returned to Los Angeles, took a few magazine shoots, and declined every interview invitation about Bullitt. The Los Angeles Times still called them a silver screen couple, not yet ready to admit it. As for her, whenever she saw his name in print, she folded the page. But one night in late June, around a.m., there was a knock at the door of her small house in the Hollywood Hills. When she opened it, she saw McQueen standing there in his familiar leather jacket, holding a bouquet of white orchids and an expensive bottle of Burgundy. He spoke softly, voice gravelly. "I had to see you. The stuff the papers wrote. It's all made up." Bisset stood still. Reason told her to shut the door, but her heart wasn't ready. In the end, she let him in. He sat on the some opened the wine, poured 2 glasses. The room was so quiet, they could hear the clink of glass. She looked at him. The same face, the same cool eyes. But something felt different. I remember his scent, she later told BBC Radio 4. It wasn't his usual cologne. It was strong, sharp, and a man's fragrance. She looked closer and noticed a short silver curly hair caught on the leather collar. Bisset didn't ask. She just stared. McQueen avoided her gaze. He seemed tired, restless, like someone hiding a truth he himself didn't want to face. In the days that followed, McQueen sent messages and called, but never asked her out to dinner or to a set. Instead, he only arranged meetings at the Chateau Marmont or the Beverly Hills Hotel, always late at night, never during the day. Bisset began to feel afraid. She wrote in her diary, "It feels like he's not the person I knew. Everything around him is fog." Then on a night in early July, she did something she'd never imagined in her life. She followed McQueen. That evening, he said he was dining with a friend in Laurel Canyon. She quietly drove behind, keeping distance. The moss green Mustang stop in front of a discreet club on Wonderland Avenue, rumored to be a meeting spot for stars after hours. The sign bore only a small line, "The Velvet Room." Bisset waited in the car. 10 minutes later, the club's back door opened. McQueen stepped out, but not alone. Beside him was a tall man with silver hair in a fitted black suit. The two laughed, spoke in low tones, then held hands as they walked inside. Bisset froze. She wanted to believe she'd seen wrong, but she couldn't. Light from a nearby parked Mustang reflected across McQueen's face, just enough for her to see him lean toward the man, whispering something. She sat in the car for nearly an hour, not crying, just silent. In that moment, she didn't feel anger. She felt empty. I wasn't shocked by the truth. I was shocked that all that time I thought I was the reason he had to hide something she told The Guardian in 2024. Turns out, I was never his secret. I was just a curtain for a much bigger secret. The next morning, Hollywood Insider ran a vague item McQueen spotted at the Velvet Room with a French designer named Marcel Delaunay. The piece was quickly pulled, but within the industry that name spread like the wind. Delaunay had done wardrobe on a few McQueen films and was often seen at private gatherings in Malibu. From then on, McQueen no longer reached out. When they bumped into each other at the Bullet premiere in October 1968, he only offered a polite handshake, eyes avoiding hers. Bisset kept smiling, but her heart was almost shattered. She told a friend, "I used to think he was the loneliest person I'd ever met. Now I understand he was lonely, because he couldn't truly be with anyone." From that night onward, Jacqueline Bisset never spoke McQueen's name to the press for nearly 40 years. But in an old diary found later, there was a single line, "I met the love of my life. I just regret that it wasn't meant for me." The story seemed to stop there. But after the Velvet Room was investigated in 1971 for suspected stimulants on the premises, many reporters began retracing McQueen's steps. And from there, people uncovered another dark side of his career where power, pride, and a need to control began to destroy everything. He could make the whole world admire him, but he could also make an entire set tremble. I saw both of his faces, and only one of them was real. After Bullitt, Steve McQueen's name was everywhere. The press called him Hollywood's perfect man. But for those who had stood beside him, especially Jacqueline Bisset, things were not so glittering. She said success changed him not in a day, but bit by bit, until no one recognized him anymore. In 1969, McQueen began claiming the right to command on set. On Le Mans 1971, he didn't just star. He wanted the director to comply with his view. One morning, when director Lee H. Katzin asked to reshoot a racing sequence, McQueen growled before the whole crew, "No need, my shot is good. More takes will only make me look worse." The air froze. A young camera op chuckled, thinking he was joking. McQueen stared, walked over, and said quietly enough for all to hear, "If you laugh again, I'll make sure you never shoot another frame in this town." From that day, no one dared meet his eyes. It didn't stop there. McQueen began meddling with every frame. He demanded that Elga Anderson, his female co-star, have some scenes trimmed because they drew the camera too much. Bisset recalled he couldn't stand others shining. On set, there was room for only one star, and it had to be him. Director Katzin said at a 1972 press conference, Steve wanted to control every centimeter of the shot. If the light fell on anyone's face, but his, we had to fix it. That harshness spread fast. Not just colleagues, the crew suffered too. One day, McQueen blew up over a scuffed helmet during filming. He threw it to the floor, barked at props, and stormed off. When he returned, he said, "I don't pay for mistakes. I pay for perfection." That line was later repeated like a curse on the Le Mans set. Worse still, McQueen allowed no one to outrank him, not even those who helped him succeed. Peter Yates, director of Bullitt, said Steve worked as if the director was his personal attendant. He wanted to run everything, and when anyone pushed back, he fell silent. But that silence was scarier than any outburst. On The Getaway, 1972, his need for control peaked. He rewrote lines, altered scene rhythms, and ordered a dozen retakes just to adjust a hairstyle. Actress Ali McGraw, later his partner, once said, "He didn't let anyone breathe." I'd never seen a man silence a set of hundreds just by looking around. But what Bisset remembered most wasn't the fame, it was the fear he spread. Once at an after-shoot party, a lighting assistant said McQueen cornered him in the parking lot for setting a wrong angle. Steve didn't shout, he said. He just looked at me and said, "Next time that light hits the wrong person, it won't be shining at all." I knew exactly who he meant. Those who resisted either left or were removed. Screenwriter Alan Trustman, who wrote Bullitt, got a midnight call. Just to hear McQueen say, "Know why I succeed. Because I never trust anyone." It wasn't just influence. McQueen demanded absolute authority in post. On Le Mans, he added a final cut clause, a privilege usually reserved for directors. When the studio resisted, he threatened to pull all funding, forcing them to yield. A producer recalled, "With Steve, there were only two ways, his way or no way." When people began to fear him, McQueen took it as victory. He told the New York Post, "If they can't handle me, they aren't strong enough to stand with me." But Bisset understood something else. She once visited the Getaway set By then, their relationship had cooled. I saw endurance in people's eyes, not respect. Steve mistook that for power. Any hint of pushback made him harsher. A crew member said when director Sam Peckinpah confronted him about delays, McQueen smirked, "If I don't perform, there's nothing to shoot." Peckinpah fell silent. 3 days later, he was nearly sick from the strain. Everyone who worked with McQueen agreed on one thing. He had a rare magnetism, but he also carried an energy that drained others. A cinematographer said in the documentary The Man and the Monster, 1987, Steve never needed to yell. He just stood there, looked at you, and you knew you couldn't afford a single mistake. That wasn't respect, it was fear. Bisset said that after the getaway, McQueen had almost no real friends left. Those once close drifted away. She heard he let go of a long-time aide of 10 years for daring to suggest he rest. I asked him why she said he smiled and said, "I don't need anyone telling me what to do. I give the orders." The further it went, the more McQueen looked like someone consumed by the spotlight. Bisset said he lived on admiration, but when there was no one left to admire him, he turned on himself. Behind the fame was a man afraid of losing power, afraid of being forgotten, willing to step on anything to stay centered in the frame. And then that obsession pulled him into a downward spiral. After 1973, McQueen turned to wine, risky thrills, and speed, 3 things that made him feel he still controlled something. But to those who knew him, they were signs of one truth. Steve McQueen was burning himself out. After 1974, Steve McQueen was no longer the cool figure people remembered. The binges, reckless races, and uncontrollable jealousy had begun, and this time, no one could save him. When a person is used to controlling everything, the last thing they lose is themselves. Jacqueline Bisset said that after everything, she no longer felt anger toward Steve McQueen. But whenever she recalled his final stretch, she still felt a chill. He wasn't the man I knew. The eyes, the voice, the same, but inside was someone else. Exhausted, distrustful, swallowed by his own name. In the late 70s, McQueen slid further. Studios hesitated to work with him. Directors kept their distance, not only because of pride, but because he'd become unmanageable. Each public appearance, he was either intoxicated or looked like he hadn't slept all night. One evening in 1977, Jacqueline was at her Laurel Canyon home when McQueen showed up, drunk and angry. He pounded on the door, shouting her name. When she stepped out, he threw his cap to the ground, face flushed. "You had dinner with that Italian director, didn't you? I told you not to see him." Before she could answer, McQueen slammed the wooden door. Glass shattered. Neighbors turned on their lights. A few crew members living nearby rushed over. But he kept yelling, voice ragged from drink, "If you see him again, I'll make sure the whole world knows you're no different from those who climb the screen through favors." Bisset stood still. She didn't cry, didn't react, just looked at the man, once admired by all Hollywood, now trembling with drink and jealousy. When friends pulled him away from the gate, McQueen kept muttering, "I just want you to look at me, not anyone else." The next morning, he sent flowers, red roses. with a note. "Last night I only wanted to protect you. I'm sorry." But she no longer opened her heart. "I realized he didn't know how to care for anyone but himself," she said. It wasn't just alcohol. McQueen got tangled in more dangerous things. Once Bisset said she happened to find in his leather notebook, the one he carried everywhere, a receipts total of $11,000 for substances from a shop in Santa Monica. When she asked, he only smiled. "I need them to feel alive." Worse, McQueen's temper flared over the smallest issues. At a party in Palm Springs in 1978, when a server accidentally touched the jacket he'd hung up, McQueen shoved him so hard the man fell. The room fell silent. McQueen simply lifted his glass and said coldly, "Don't touch my things." A few old friends tried to intervene, but he brushed them off. Former girlfriend Barbara Lee wrote in her memoir, "Steve could make you feel like a queen, until the moment you made him doubt you. Then you became his opponent." Those who had worked with him described McQueen as a ticking bomb no one knew when it would go off. Producer Alan Trustman said 1 second he could be smiling. The next, he might smash a chair because someone said the word failure. And failure was the one thing McQueen couldn't bear. After the financial disaster of Le Mans, he became obsessed with proving he was still the king of cool. He threw himself into risky racing in Baja California, where the desert was as scorching and perilous as his temper. In 1975, during an off-road event, McQueen's motorcycle flipped in a turn, dragging him more than 20 meters across the sand. He survived, but fractured his shoulder and left leg. In the hospital, when a reporter asked if he was afraid, McQueen only smiled. "I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of not being remembered." Jacqueline learned of it from the papers. She wasn't surprised. "I knew he would go that far. He always thought he was untouchable." The older he got, the lonelier he became. Those close to him drifted away. Former wife, Ali McGraw, left because she couldn't bear the temper and control. McQueen led a closed life in Malibu, only wine machines and sleepless nights. Bisset remembered the last time she saw him in 1979, a few months before his diagnosis. He looked worn down but tried to seem strong. He asked if I ever regretted anything. I said, "I don't regret Steve, but I don't want to become someone you can hurt." He went quiet. I saw fear in his eyes, not fear of death, but of having no one left to command. After that, McQueen withdrew. He avoided the press, avoided friends. When news broke in 1980 that he had passed from illness, Hollywood mourned. But Jacqueline felt differently. I don't blame him, but I don't mourn him either. A man who wanted to control everything, in the end, couldn't control himself. She said that even after many years, she sometimes remembered that look, the look that once made her believe he was the only man in the world. Looking back now, she said, "I understand this sometimes the brightest glow is what burns them out the fastest." At 81, Jacqueline Bisset no longer fears the shadow named Steve McQueen. She simply tells it like a late farewell to a man who once had everything: talent, fame, love, yet lost the one thing that mattered most: peace within himself. "Hollywood called him the king of cool," she said, "but I know he was just a child who never learned how to care for anyone but himself. And that is the part of the truth Hollywood tried to hide for half a century. If Jacqueline Bisset and Steve McQueen's story left you both surprised and unsettled, leave a like and a comment so we know you're here with us. Don't forget to share this video with anyone who still believes Hollywood's glow is flawless. Because in the stories to come, we'll peel back secrets even darker than these.